Daniel tells us that at that time, beginning of chapter 12, he says, at that time, Michael, meaning the angel Michael, that's the defendant of Am Yisrael, at that time Michael will stand, the great heavenly prince who stands in support of the members of your people. And there will be a time of trouble such as there had never been since there was a nation until that time. Meaning that the end of days, before Mashiach arrives, is going to be the worst possible times that Am Yisrael has ever had. Now, what does that mean, has ever had, since it became a nation? That literally means worse than anything else we can possibly imagine. Worse than the Holocaust, worse than Egypt, worse than the Spanish Inquisition, worse than anything else. This is really what's happening here. This is what he's telling us, that heat, that fire, that nightmare that will happen before the salvation is going to be horrible. Why is it going to be horrible? But at that time, your people will escape. Everything that is found written in this book will occur. Many of those who sleep in the dusty earth will awaken, these for everlasting life, and these for shame, for everlasting abhorrence. So here, the prophet is telling us that there's going to be a time of trouble unlike any other, to the point where the prophet Michael is going to plead with God to have mercy on us because of the kingdom at the time. Who's the kingdom at the time? It's called the fourth kingdom. The fourth kingdom is Ishmael. As Ishmael is the fourth kingdom that, as we mentioned last night, the prophet Ezekiel and Zechariah both talk about the war of Gog and Magog. And the Malbim clarifies that the war of Gog and Magog is going to be the most horrible war that ever existed, but it's not going to seem like it's the end of the world right off the bat. It's going to seem like everything is not necessarily great, but it seems like the world is not looking to, destroy Israel. Where initially there's going to be a fight between Israel, Yaakov, and Ishmael, and Esav, which is Edom, is going to come help Yaakov. Edom is going to come help Yaakov fight Ishmael. This will begin the fight between Edom and Ishmael, which gets worse and worse as other nations get involved, and ultimately turn into a world war unlike anything else, but eventually ends up having everyone turn on Israel and go and fight against Israel. Ishmael is going to have a position where it's as if it's going to be winning for a time. It's going to look like Ishmael is winning. It's going to be a miserable time for the people of Israel that are in this time. It's going to be a very, very difficult time, to the point where the angel, Michael, is going to plead for mercy. Plead for mercy because Ishmael is worse than any other enemy that the Jewish people have ever had. Worse than the Romans, worse than the Babylonians, worse than the Edomites, worse than everybody else. The Gemara says that out of all the nations, the one that has the most vicious traits is Ishmael. Literally heartless. And anyone that has seen some of the horrific videos that they themselves are publicizing of what they're doing to Jewish people that are innocent, literally just, civilians with no weapons, with no ways of defending themselves, understands what I'm talking about. Literally just the worst, most vile things in the world. I don't even want to repeat them anymore because I already know that some of you already know, and some of you that it's already enough to know, and some of you have already seen. But the point is that this Ishmael is showing exactly its colors right now. I mean, we already knew for centuries who Ishmael was, but apparently the world forgot. The world has been defending Ishmael in recent years. So now the prophet here in chapter 12 of Daniel says that it's going to be a time of difficulty, but then there's going to be a resurrection of the dead. So this is actually part of the big debate among the sages of whether the resurrection of the dead is going to be literally very, very close to the end itself or 40 years after. But either way, he's saying that after this whole thing happens, one of the next events that will happen is going to be a resurrection of the dead. That those who sleep in the dusty earth will awaken. But he gives us a insight in the verse telling us that some will resurrect from the dead for shame and abhorrence, everlasting abhorrence, while others will awaken for everlasting life, meaning both the righteous and the wicked are going to be resurrected. Why would both the righteous and the wicked be resurrected? The Malbim says that this resurrection will happen after the terrible situation ends, and both the wicked and the righteous will rise in order to pay everyone their ultimate reward or punishment, where part of the reward for the righteous is going to be to see the salvation, to enjoy an eternal life of good, first part being in this world, next part being in the upper world, and the wicked will actually see all of this. They'll be resurrected in order to see the reward of the righteous, but also in order for both their body and their soul to be punished for eternity. Because even though there's a place called Gehenna, Kafakela, all these places where Hashem punishes people, the Torah tells us that yes, the soul is the real you, but even though the soul is the real you, the body that was, holding the soul, was the clothing for the soul, still sinned. And therefore both have to be punished. So the wicked will actually resurrect, they will see the reward of the righteous, and then they will suffer. A suffering unlike anything else that you can possibly imagine, where their body and soul will receive the maximum punishment forever, while the righteous will have an everlasting life of good.